Jai Hind, Vande Mataram. Welcome to Galp Taru, the Tree of Stories, which is a celebration of Indian folk tales. My name is Ambalika and I am an author and storyteller, and Galp Taru is my special storytelling initiative on the occasion of the 75th year of Indian independence, which now has turned into the Amrit Kal, which is the next 25 years leading to the century of the Indian independence. So that would be in 2047. In this auspicious time, during this auspicious time, how can we reconnect with Indian culture? And what does it actually mean to be an Indian in such an important state of time is what Galp Taru tries to explore and find out. So since January 26, 2022, I have been on a mission to take you and even myself on a tour of our country, our lovely country, through her folk tales. And over a period of last 1 year, we have traveled north, south, east, west, and central India and understood her history, her changes in geography, and her folk culture, the richness of her heritage through the many folk tales. And if you are a first time to this channel and this series, I invite you to check out our playlist, Galp Taru, the Tree of Stories. And if you're a regular, heartiest welcome again. And I hope you enjoyed this exclusive episode, which is dedicated to a cognate tribe of the northeast of India. I am super excited to bring to you this episode of Galp Taru because for the first time, we are going to talk about not just one tribe, but three tribes, because they are totally intermingled with each other. And even though the history of a folk tribe, an indigenous tribe, makes for itself a story which needs an episode to itself, but still, in this episode, we are going to have a bonus of sorts. Hang on. We are moving to the northeast of India, and I can bet that you've never heard of this cognate tribe before. It's called Zeliangrong. Well, if you have heard, it's because you are a student of history specializing in the northeast of India, especially the tribal region, and so you have an inkling of what this is about. But if you are like anybody else who has grown up outside of northeast and has absolutely no idea about who these people are, this episode is for you. So, surprise number one is that Zeliangrong isn't one tribe. It's a cognate of three tribes. Zeme, the liangmais, and the rongmei, who are also known as the cowboys. So, it's the prefix of these three tribes. Zeme, ze, liangmai, liang, and rongmei, the rong. So that's how the prefixes have been taken together, and they are called the Zeliangrongs, and they live between the states of present-day Assam, Manipur, and Nagaland. But that was not always the case. Their origin, this is now the second surprise, the fascinating story behind how they came about to be the Zeliangrongs. And so the story goes like this. The ancestors of the Zeliangrongs was a person of indigenous origin by the name Munhui Nyungba, who lived in the Makoilongdi village in the present-day Senapati district of Manipur, and he had three sons. The eldest son moved to the north, and the descendants from him came to be known as the Zemes. The middle son stayed back in the village, and his descendants came to be known as the liangmais. And the youngest son moved to the south of the village, and his descendants came to be known as the rongmei, or otherwise known as the cowboys. So much later on, or you could almost say in comparative times, very recently, in the 70s, 80s, after independence basically, they decided that they need to have a united identity, and that is why they took the prefixes of their tribes and they made it Zeliangrong. So if you're meeting somebody who belongs to one of these tribes, you would find that as a surname, what they use is the label Zeliang. So Zeliang isn't really a family title or a surname in the conventional sense like you and I would have, but it's an identity that they belong to one of these tribes. So it makes for a very fascinating history to have, and it's important to know this because it explains why folk tales and the folk culture is so important for the Zeliangrongs, as you would have guessed by now. Because of the nature of their origin, they get to know about how their communities came into existence, how it evolved over time, and where it is headed to through their folk tales. And mostly they are narrated by the elders. So there's a huge responsibility on the elders of the villages or of the community, in short, to pass on this history and the identity that they have through these folk tales. So any kind of folk tale is responsible for the personal development of the individuals of each of these communities. And while they are united, they also have their own individual separate identities. So even though the folk tales remain the same across, their interpretation and the way they are narrated and how they are narrated is what brings in a uniqueness to the retelling and the importance of the folk tales. So upskilling of their individual talent, their personality development, their connection with their community, their families, and social fabric in general, especially how to have a successful, thriving marriage. These are what gets transpired through the folk tales, as along with the everyday themes of working hard, being a safe space for people. So it's very interesting to note that these people have special songs dedicated to working in the field, songs dedicated that highlight the importance of hard work and also the importance of safety and security. So that's how important folk culture is for the Zeliangrongs. And so it makes sense that if we have to understand the world of this beautiful unexplored tribe, then getting to know or learning, reading about only one folk tale is not going to be enough. We'll not be doing justice to them. So because we are talking about a cognate of tribes here, so in this week's episode of Galp Taru, we are going to have a 3-in-1 folk tale. One from the zeme, one from the liangmai, one from the rongmei. And I'm really very excited about how I'm going to do this because I've never done it before. But then that's what Galp Taru is all about. Doing things in a new way and discovering newer things to do. I am super excited to see how I can bring you this mashup of Zeliangrong tales, and I hope you are also excited and are looking forward to it. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button so that when the story comes live, you don't miss it. I'll see you soon. Until then, Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.